Hello, everybody. We'll just let people into the webinar before we get started. How you doing, Hugh?
Great, thanks, Adam. And yourself?
Not bad. Looking forward to talking to people about CRM, our favourite subject.
That's all I
One,
do all day.
one of them. Anyway.
Yeah. No, it should be good. Hopefully it gives a lot of insight in terms of if you are considering a new CRM or if you are looking at building out a brief, this should be able to guide you along that path. And we've also got an asset as well, which we'll share following on from the webinar, that you can take away and obviously build out yourselves.
Amazing. Well, it is actually 1 o'clock in the UK. So let's get cracking. Thank you, everybody, very much for joining the webinar today. This is only going to be 30 minutes maximum. And we're going to be talking about CRM and CRM briefs. And really, I think the idea that Hugh and I had for this is that, we talk to a lot of people who are looking to move to a CRM, a new CRM, and actually the people that are having to sort of orchestrate that and advise the business on which CRM they should go for. There's lots of things that they need to be think about and considered. And so what we want to do today is talk about some of the things that we think are really important when deciding to invest in a new CRM. So I'm Adam Lewis. I am co-founder and one of the solutions architects at BBD Boom. And BBD Boom is a HubSpot elite partner. And the relevance here, I would say, in terms of accreditations is, for some of you who don't know, the partner ecosystem. There's loads of brilliant partners out there that can help you implement HubSpot. And we're one of the few that has the CRM implementation accreditation, which is the highest accreditation from HubSpot for partners. And so clearly we're very good and very happy to talk to anybody that's thinking about moving to HubSpot. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about CRM briefs, and I'm really pleased to be joined by Hugh Roberts. Hugh, how you doing?
Great, thanks. Hi everyone. So yeah, I'm Hugh. For anybody that doesn't know me, I joined BBD Boom 4 months ago. I want to say now, Adam.
Yeah.
4 months ago. So I've worked in the HubSpot ecosystem for around 4.5 years now. So a lot of the job roles that I get involved with is actually understanding CRM briefs or with businesses who are looking to migrate away from another system, building out what their essential CRM strategy should look like, how HubSpot can create operational efficiencies as well as improving their marketing flow or their sales journeys as well. So, no, delighted to be joining you today.
And Hugh, you've obviously got a background in many years in sales yourself. So not only are you obviously an expert in talking about HubSpot, but you're a kind of you've been a user of CRMs most of your life, haven't you?
Most of my life, yes. Well, all of my working life. So I worked
Yeah.
in recruitment for 7 years. I used a really clunky CRM called Voyager, which had MailChimp sort of integrated into it. And then the only really other exposure that I've had to CRMs is with HubSpot. Apart from obviously working with clients where they have Salesforce Dynamics, other instances, and understanding how they all flow. But yeah, worked in CRM all of my working career so far.
Brilliant. So we're just going to talk about some of the scenarios that you as audience today might be facing when looking at a CRM. And then we're going to talk through some of the considerations and some of the kind of key steps that I think are required to think through at your stage, and things that will help the implementation of the right CRM for your business and for that to go smoothly um, as we go. Now, I think that it'd be interesting to see if anybody recognizes any of these scenarios about why people are even on the call today, why people typically move CRMs or move to a new CRM. If I quickly take you through these. So we see a lot of people, and surprisingly big businesses actually, who are still on spreadsheets, and they are running their sales process on spreadsheets. That has a number of problems. First of all, in terms of efficiency and quality of data, it's not very easy to share. It can get out of date, and you're fundamentally missing out on all the amazing features that now exist with CRMs like HubSpot. So that's a classic one. The other one then is people are moving away from a CRM. So they've got a CRM, but fundamentally they're not using it, or people don't really want it, or don't really want to use it. And so maybe somebody new's come along to the business, maybe that's you, and you've decided, well, it's time to move CRMs because nobody's using it, it's not giving us the value that we want. The third interesting one, actually, that we're seeing more and more is our clients who perhaps as a result of mergers or acquisitions or the way that different business units or divisions operate, they've actually already got 3 or 4 CRMs. So they might have a Dynamics, they might have a sort of NetSuite CRM, they might even have a HubSpot already. And so the job there is to consolidate them into a single CRM. And then, of course, that's a slightly different scenario because then they've got to evaluate which of the existing ones are the right ones to merge into. So that's a good one. And then finally, and we see this a lot, we call it the bird's nest. So the bird's nest CRM is where everything's got tangled up, everything's a bit messy, everything's a bit out of control. There's no longer any processes in the CRM that are representing how the business sales processes work. There's loads of automations and templates and lists that are redundant and not used and complicating things. And actually, people have the choice there of either sort of moving to a completely new CRM and leaving that as it is and saying goodbye to that, or actually, and something we would do with HubSpot is helping people to reorganize that and make, tidy it up. So Hugh, any comments on any of these scenarios?
Yeah, definitely. Look, I've seen all of these scenarios on multiple occasions. I think for points 1 and 4, moving from a spreadsheet to a CRM, one thing, if you're considering a migration over to a new CRM, is okay, do we want to do a like for like? So what are the fundamental reasons behind why are we moving from the spreadsheet into a new CRM? And if that is HubSpot, there's a variety of different functionality that comes within it. Where I see with briefs is businesses are so fixated on we can't upset business operations on a day-to-day basis that we just need to do a like for like migration. And then what almost tends to happen is they forget about all of the added functionality that a new software is going to have for them. So the actual adoption phase of that new CRM needs to be considered in that point. And that's where obviously that point 4, refreshing the bird's nest, comes into play, because you're so bogged down with doing the day-to-day operations that you've never actually considered, well, actually, what do we want this new CRM to do for us? What was it that our old CRM was lacking, or where our spreadsheets were? What is this enabling us to do? Is it, is it a better single source of truth? Is it better marketing and sales alignment, for example? So there's a variety of things there. I think with points 2 and 3, this is probably what we see most commonly at the moment. And again, I think they can come in different phases depending on the complexity. So I've got a really good example here where we've recently migrated a business from Salesforce to HubSpot. Now, the business, they were already using HubSpot as their marketing CRM, but Salesforce is their sales CRM. And the business basically made a decision to move to the HubSpot suite of tools that were available. So the first instance that we had to tackle was it's a large organization, so we couldn't interrupt business operations. So what we had to do in that first phase was do a like for like migration from Salesforce into HubSpot, along with a training piece so that their teams knew how to adopt that platform. Now, the other critical thing that we had to worry about here was, and this is something that you should keep in mind if you are considering a CRM project, is the expiry date of that actual existing system as well. So that can have huge sort of dependencies on how far and wide you can go with that initial migration. So phase 1, what we've done is we've done that like for like migration. We're now undergoing a secondary phase to the project, which is actually a CRM enhancement project. So this is now building on the foundations of everything that HubSpot has in its capacity. So we're going to be using a lot of the key features to elevate the growth potential of that actual business. And I think the other bit that I'm seeing more and more now is, that initial migration, and not to upset the business operations, never lose sight of the future as well. funnily enough, I was speaking to a client the other day, and they moved to HubSpot 18 months ago from a legacy CRM system. And in their words, they called HubSpot right now is a digital Rolodex because they haven't progressed any further forward from actually migrating from their existing platform. So whenever you consider a CRM migration, I think the critical pieces that you've got to consider is, okay, we're doing a like for like in phase one potentially, but what is it that we actually need that system to do for us long term?
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you very much for those anecdotes. I meant to say actually to everybody, please put any questions in the Q&A tab and we'll try and answer them at the end. We're not going to take questions as we go just because we want to get through the content. I can see Amer's got his hand up, so if that's okay to do that, Amer. So let's talk about the criteria for selecting a CRM. So when you're choosing a CRM, how are you rating them? What are the criteria you're using for that? And also being really clear with the business on what are the goals as a result of that. So, Hugh, do you want to take us through your thoughts on criterias?
Yeah, of course. So I got different thoughts depending on the different departments who you're looking to integrate into this new CRM. So I've worked in sales all of my career, and one thing from a sales perspective, which I've heard a lot of nodding heads with previously, is moving sales individuals from one platform to another platform, or even adopting a new platform in its entirety. Adoption is the critical piece for a sales team member, because sales team members inherently, and I'm not talking about everybody, is they like to do things in their own way. Whereas what a CRM system should be enabling them to do is standardizing that sales process to enable scalability and enable data capture through all of the relevant points of a sales cycle. So sales adoption is really critical when you're considering sort of a CRM. So it's not just around the ease of use, it's actually how can we help them sell more, or how can we make it more, how can we make the sales team more efficient? From a marketing point of view, I would say that typically when marketers are looking at marketing software or marketing CRMs, they've got disjointed journeys because there's so many different data points that they can capture things from. You've got MailChimp, you've got your social media, you've got your paid ads, you've got Google Analytics, for example, and then you've got your landing pages, your website, all of these considerations. So the main pain points here and the key criteria, I guess, would be, does it have an all-in-one solution for me where it's integrated? So integratable solutions is something that's really key for marketeers. But then in terms of as an overarching CRM point of view, my key areas in terms of what I discuss with clients on a day-to-day basis is it's more around, okay, the data, is it going to be structured in the right way? And is it going to enable us to get the reporting elements and the data points out of it so that we can make data-driven decisions for our businesses moving forward, whether that's on a marketing, a sales, or a service perspective? Oh, you're on mute, Adam. Sorry.
Oh yeah, sorry. Absolutely. And of course, the one that I hear people talk about the most is, for obvious reasons, is cost. And I want to say one thing about cost. I think, I'd say that you need to be looking at lifetime cost of ownership. So I think when you're looking at a CRM, there's the current price, license cost, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. What do I also need to be prepared for? Are there going to be license increases? If I add more contacts in, if I add more sales seats in, is it going to go up? What's the delta on that? And then the other bit, I think, where HubSpot actually does play very competitively against some of the other guys like Salesforce, is the effort and the skills and the amount of people you need to run the system is lower for something like HubSpot because it is so user friendly. So when you're buying a bigger, well-known system like Salesforce, what is that going to actually cost you in manpower, extra licenses, extra features that you thought you might not need now, but you might need next year? Hugh, just briefly then, goals. I mean, what sort of goals should people set themselves?
For goals for a CRM, I would underpin it around your differing apart. So for when I speak to clients, a lot of them is saying, I just want to be able to have a single source of truth in terms of I want to know, okay, if from a full customer journey perspective, can I see every single touch point and I can see exactly what is working well for our business and what's not working well for our business, rather than having that disjointed in different systems and trying to pull all that information together. That's one of the key things that I would set as a goal. The other areas that I would be looking to do is especially around like that reporting piece, because I think reporting is so critical for businesses these days. And actually, from a scalability point of view, do I want teams doing manual tasks on a day-to-day basis, or how can I actually automate this and support our customer journey and our customer experience moving forward? Those are critical things that I think underpin that CRM objective.
Brilliant. And I guess everybody on the call, they'll have their own goals, they'll have their own things that they want to achieve.
Yeah.
But there's some thoughts for you. So let's talk about journey. Now, we'll talk about requirements, Hugh, because at the end of the day, hopefully people on the call aren't going to make a decision on their own about what CRM. They're going to do some consultation, they're going to talk to people, and we'll come on to that in a minute. Um, and actually, we recommend the Moscow methodology for sort of handling all the different competing requirements and wishes and all the rest of it. Must have, should have, could have, won't have. It's just a good way of filtering through what everybody wants to see in the new CRM, because they will have quite, especially the sales team, Hugh, understandably have very strong views about what they want. Where do you start with this methodology when you're building a brief, or how do you use it?
Yeah, it's a great area. So the reason why we sort of recommend this is through working closely with some of the HubSpot team and from my previous experience as well, is we respond to a lot of RFPs, which are basically tender processes for businesses who are looking for a new CRM. And ultimately, what it does from a layering perspective is it tells you, right, okay, well, fundamentally, functionally, what does that system need to have? What it could have is, which is like a nice to have, and what we don't need to have. So that's the Moscow methodology in a very brief nutshell. Where to start with that is, personally, I would start by independently evaluating individual departments of businesses to understand, okay, critically from day one, what is it that you need for your job role to work from a system requirement? What is a nice to have and what is irrelevant? And detailing that as much as you possibly can by you suggesting, for example, I need something that has a calling software. That doesn't answer the question necessarily, because there, again, are limitations with certain CRMs or certain systems. So try and be as granular as possible to get to the information that you want to have. So if you're making 300 calls, if your sales team are making 300 calls on a month-to-month basis, I would detail that the system needs to have a requirement to make 300 calls on a month-to-month basis. Or we have 7 different pipelines, so we need to have functionality, have 7 different pipelines. So there are a variety of different things to consider there, but the more granular that you can get and the more information that you can provide, that is where a CRM specialist or an agency can actually support you to say, X system can do this for you, or Y system cannot do this for you because it doesn't have these capabilities. And that's where you'll start to see the limitations of certain softwares as well. And that's a really important factor from a future-proofing perspective.
And I think watch out for when you ask people that they don't all say everything's must have.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and let's go on to data, because I think that's whenever I talk around HubSpot CRM, your CRM strategy could be the most perfect strategy in the world, and you might have the best marketing and the best sales team ever. But if your data is not structured in the right way, it's never going to work for your business. And I know, Adam, you've had a lot of experience with regards
hmm,
to understanding businesses' data architecture. So talk us a little
hmm.
bit more around the process that you go through here.
Yeah, it's probably the thing that is often overlooked, I would say, when we're talking to people. They don't really want to think about that. So and it's really, really important because it's the building blocks of the CRM. Data objects, so contacts, companies, whatever you want to call them, accounts, tickets, all these sorts of things, the opportunities or the deals. Those are the standard things that are in a CRM? And is that sufficient for you? So if I use an example of some of our real estate property clients, the thing that really matters to them is the property, because the property is where they're selling the property. It's where they have the owner of the property, so they want to associate the person who, or the company that owns it. They want to associate all the people that are interested in that property. Same with our telecoms clients. They might be selling to a property, they might have residential customers and B2B customers in one building. So having an object in their CRM that is called property is crucial. So and we call them custom objects, and now they are very easy to deploy in HubSpot. So thinking through all that sort of stuff, how we're going to capture it, what are the kind of unique values and properties of properties, as in a CRM properties, not buildings, sense that we need to have. And then, so when we're all on the same page about that, then we need to think about the relationships between things, and we need to think about the architecture and structure of the data. So what I mean by that is, how is this CRM going to plug into other systems that you've got? So the typical ones we see, obviously the marketing system needs to plug into the CRM system. We see a lot of people that want to plug the CRM into the ERP, because when there's a new project, a new deal, that information needs to get sent over to the ERP. It's ready for the delivery team. They've got all the right information in there, and it's ready to go. And likewise with a finance system. So we would typically start with our diagramming work, and you guys can do this as well, even if it's just very simple within a PowerPoint or something. The kind of top level one of what is that relationship. Level two architecture then goes into saying, okay, right, well, we know we want a connection between the CRM and the finance system. What is now getting into detail, what is the data that we want to pass between the CRM and the finance system? It's the deal value, the deal amount, the company, the associated people to it, the type of deal. How often is the information going to go through? Sometimes we have clients, they want finance information to come back to the CRM, and they want that happening in real time. So what are those rules and all the rest of it? And then the next level of architecture is around processes. So if I think about specific pipelines that need to be built, like maybe they've got 3 or 4 stages, and that represents your sales process for international. Maybe you've got a recurring revenue kind of SaaS type model, and that has a different sales process, and that needs to be represented in the CRM through a pipeline. Maybe we need workflows that assign leads from North America to certain sales reps. Maybe we need a commission calculator that runs in the background inside something like HubSpot. And so then you're getting down into the detail, level 3 detail of what HubSpot needs to be able to do, or what your CRM needs to be able to do in order to represent your processes. And my final point about that is, we really love this sort of stuff because it's often an opportunity to reprocess things and improve and optimize things. So definitely spend some time on this. And here, I really liked your point about business continuity earlier. And license renewal. So if you're going from one system to another, it might be that, like you said, it's a lift and shift. Phase 1, just get the stuff in there, and then we can start re-engineering and improving
Yeah,
the track.
you got to think around keeping costs down as well from a licensing perspective, because ultimately you never want 2 systems running all at once. But there's naturally, from a risk perspective, you probably do want a little bit of crossover time so that you can move all of that information over and then into test it until you're happy. And making sure that there's a sandbox available inside of your portal can be massively important for that business. But I guess just to touch on sort of the when you go down into those next tiers, because the data is so important, it's then those team specific requirements and those automation reporting requirements. And I know internally we're massive advocates of digital whiteboards to essentially map out your full sort of flow. So everything that happens in terms of, from an interaction point of view, from a website visitor all the way through to someone becoming a promoter of your brand, if we're using the HubSpot flywheel methodology, which I hope you all are. But ultimately, we recommend Whimsical. You can use Miro for this. My recommendation for any business here is Firstly, if you've not documented or highlighted what your customer journey looks like and all the system dependencies and all this process steps that are involved, do that in the first phase. Make sure that that can get done, because that can then open up your eyes in terms of, okay, what does a CRM need to do for our business? And then when you pass that over to an implementation partner, if you pass it over to a HubSpot direct rep, they will talk you through around the efficiencies that you can gain in your process, and actually where you can improve on certain areas, and actually how that can support your business in terms of from a scalability moving forward. And it can see where do those manual aspects see and where can we actually automate those points. Because I'm an advocate of automation, but I'm not an advocate of 100% automation. If I was, I wouldn't be in a job. I always think that a salesperson is half the reason why people buy. People buy from people, and people buy off the people that they enjoy working with, or they can see transparency with and have a good relationship with. So I'm a big advocate of there has to be a mix between where to automate and where to actually have a manual interaction as well.
Nice. So on the requirements then, Hugh, who needs to be involved? How do you get them involved?
I guess this really comes down to how your business is structured and how it's organized. Typically, you want to keep it down to as minimum as people as possible. Too many chefs in the room can make sure that this project never actually gets off the ground, is what I found. So keeping it into a project team would be really beneficial. One, you want somebody who is going to be the decision maker ultimately. So someone that's in a CEO position or an operations director typically is somebody that's involved in that process. And then talking through to your managerial team members from each of those segments. So your service, your operations, your sales, and your marketing areas, to understand actually what are those fundamental requirements. And then bringing that all together to say, right, okay, these are the fundamental requirements. And then how do we work, how do we build this in terms of from a planning point of view?
Yeah. And one thing that everyone today will get the ebook, which has got specific questions for specific teams. So we're not going to go into those here, but you'll get that. And I think we certainly advocate making sure you consult not just the sales team, because as we know, the customer experience that Hugh's been talking about, and the sales experience and the product is not just the sole preserve of the sales team. So when you after webinar today, you'll get that, and there's loads of great questions and things to tease it out from different teams. So we're nearly wrapped up. We've got some questions which we'll come to in a sec. Obviously, there might be people on the call today, Hugh, that have done a migration,
Yeah.
and might fall into that category earlier where they're not really sure if it might have become a bird's nest. What, I don't know whether you had this phrase, Hugh, but that post-migration rescue, what is that exactly?
So I guess the critical thing is I speak to businesses on a day-to-day basis who have either got HubSpot or are looking at HubSpot, and the ones that already have HubSpot, they are in this phase where it might not be working for them. They've migrated, they've been using the system for 2-3 years, and they might be new in post. One of the critical bits that I found is when they did the initial implementation, nothing was documented around actually how it was built. So anybody that joins the business, essentially you're inheriting a piece of software and nobody knows how it's built. So anything that you touch could break other things. So that doesn't necessarily mean that the CRM is not fit for your business or fit for purpose. It means we need to uncover how it is actually working for the business. So what I would recommend if anybody is in this scenario at the moment is look to a specialist in that sector to do an audit of actually how your CRM has been built, so that you can understand, okay, is it past the point of saving, or is it actually there are just a few fundamental elements that we need to change to get things back on track. The other critical bit here on a post-migration rescue, I wouldn't necessarily call it a rescue, is with platforms like HubSpot, they are constantly releasing new product updates. Now, with that, it can actually change your ultimate strategy from a CRM perspective. And I don't think every business should use absolutely every tool that's at their disposal, because every business has their own unique requirements. But it's about actually keeping on top of what those product updates look like. How could it actually improve our business performance? That's a really key area, and that you've constantly got to be tipping the balance in your favor by utilizing more and more product updates. Because what we've seen is, with everything that's happened previously and now with AI coming out, if you don't advocate updates, if you don't advocate change, you'll get left behind, and your competition will quickly blow you out the water if you don't adopt new challenges and new phases of growth.
Love it, Hugh. Thank you very much. So questions. I absolutely agree with the 4 points. Oh, thank you very much, Emma. Natalia says, I was a bit late. Please, could you share the recording? Yes, we will. Okay, and then Shivam says, I have a question concerning the automated process. I'm using HubSpot as a CRM for our marketing strategy. The issue I'm facing is that when my salesperson uses the business card scanner to create a contact, the company name does not get captured. It's time consuming to update the company. That's a very specific question. What we'll do is we'll get an answer to you, Shivam, directly from one of our technical guys. So I'm sure we can sort that out for you. And then Amma again, how do you deal with prospects that are reluctant to change their CRM? That's a good one. Let's end on that then, Hugh. What would we say to somebody who perhaps other decision makers in the organization who are actually making a decision, they're not really sure about moving CRMs?
There's a number of things that we could do here. So I guess if we take the scenario where somebody's driving the conversation that they want to do a CRM change, but there are other stakeholders that are not on board with that at the moment, we need to understand, well, actually, how is what they're doing at the moment creating them to become stale, or creating them not to go to the next level of growth? That's the first piece. Or there is that scenario where actually the systems that they're using now are working well for them, but they might not be adopting certain areas. So that could be a case of actually, well, let's introduce them smallly on the side to smaller pieces of software that can actually integrate with their existing CRM, so it can prove the worth against actually what they're saying already. It doesn't need to be a huge transformational change every time. Businesses can, and what we found in the way that the HubSpot model works is, you'll see that you start on the free version, you soon get up to grips with how the free version works. It does things for your business. You then upgrade to the starter, you then upgrade to the professional, because all of these additional features, you start to see how it can help you scale your business. So there are a variety of different ways that you can go about it, but I guess to try and change someone's opinion is, you've got to show them how it's going to make their business scale even further, or how it's going to make their function even more efficient.
Brilliant. Thank you, Hugh. Thank you, everybody, for attending today. We're out of time. Everyone will get this ebook, which will go into a lot more detail on what we've talked about. We hope it's very, very helpful. If you've got any more questions, please reach out to us directly. We hope the webinar was helpful, and good luck with whatever you're doing with CRMs. Thank you for your time.